will not stand in the way of the LNP increasing maximum sentences. That does meet the needs of victims in society. And I listened carefully to the member for Townsville and talking about his harrowing stories of what has happened there. And it reminded me that this is the, I've seen 3 cycles of youth crime go through the region and the community over the 20-odd years that I've been representing my community. It's never easy. But I sincerely believe the law before the House will actually not meet that promise, the LNP promise of keeping Queenslanders safe. I do believe there are elements of the bill that will undermine protection for victims. Now, the member for Gave made it clear that some of the measures in this bill have the potential for a range of unintended consequences. The member made it clear Queenslanders did not vote for laws that potentially put victims on trial, because there is that possibility, if we have heard, that victims could be cross-examined. Now, every single expert in the bill's hearing stated that if the impact on victims is one of the primary principles, there is a possibility that defence lawyers will get that opportunity to cross-examine the victim there. The member ahead of me is have another go there. He's already had one go. We've listened to you on silence. Now give us the same opportunity.
Well, it starts making truth then.
Do you really want to go through it like this? We've sat and listened to you.
Member for Bancroft, please take your seat. I think there's a point of order.
Mr Speaker, the member's clearly directing his comments towards somebody who's not even involved in this debate. If he's got an objection, he should make it to you, not to the member.
I take that point. The member for Bancroft did make a relevant position in terms of the previous government speakers have been heard in silence. I expect the same to apply to every other speaker from here on. Otherwise, I'll be taking action against anyone that interjects. Member for Bancroft.
Speaker, we know that Queenslanders did not vote to end restorative justice. Now, that's a process that has been supported by many victims groups. And as we heard from the member from Bulimba, that satisfaction with restorative justice sits above 70% with some groups of that resolution there. And I hear the member for Hervey Bay talk before. It's not everyone it works for, but for many people it does. The LNP are ramming through laws that the experts we heard have said may make the system worse. It will have unintended consequences. Now, Bravehearts have said that adopting policies that are not based on evidence and careful scrutiny of their impact on our children and young people would be a grave error. The Queensland Mental Health Commission stated it is noted that the short time frame for consultation on the bill may lead to unintended consequences. The Independent Ministerial Advisory Council said that it is a view of the IMAC that the fast-track process for developing this legislation has not allowed for an appropriate and evidence-based consideration of complex issues and any potential unintended consequences of the bill. The Queensland Family and Child Commission, Commissioner Lewis' submission, said the evidence is also clear that making laws without appropriately scrutinising the unintended consequences of those decisions will ultimately have far-reaching implications. Queensland Homicide Victim Support Group said, when legislation like this is rushed, it can have unintended consequences and it can also trigger victims who already distrust government. Associate Professor Terry Goldsworthy from Bond University said, it is disappointing that such a time frame was imposed on the submissions in relation to the bill. It would have been much more prudent to allow sufficient time for comprehensive submissions to be made. The last time legislation was rushed through the parliamentary processes like this, it resulted in the ill-conceived and problematic Vlad anti-bikie laws that were a dismal failure in terms of combating organised crimes. The Queensland Council of Social Services stated the amendments in the bill do not deliver evidence-based initiatives that effectively empower victims and reduce offending. Queensland Law Society stated there is no evidence that lengthier custodial sentences deter young offenders. Speaker, I can't remember seeing a bill that engenders so much opposition from those who work in that area, those specialists in those areas. What we all get from those comments by the submitters is that so many of them said that there could potentially be many unintended consequences. So many have said it possibly won't work as the LNP has promised. Everyone has said it's too rushed, even Voice for Victims. And let's remember, no one actually saw what the bill actually proposed before the election. And when it was exposed, everyone said it was full of potential unintended consequences and may make the situation worse. So that is why we need more time to examine the bill to see if it would possibly make things worse for victims. I know the people opposite, the LNP opposite do care about victims, so I say to them, please take that extra 6 to 8 weeks to make sure we scrutinise this bill properly, to make sure we minimise any possible unintended consequences. Speaker, one of the best things you can say about this bill, it's a pathway, it's not a solution, but it does complement the solutions we have already brought in over the past number of years. Speaker, we brought in 2 bills over the last 2 years, 2 weighty bills. Now, the LNP have always said that we've watered down the laws 10 years ago. The truth is, in the last couple of years, we brought in the toughest laws in Australia, led by evidence there. We invested significantly in community safety. Our Queensland Community Safety Bill, part of our Community Safety Plan, was backed by $1.28 billion in investment. We backed our law changes with the investments that was needed to make them work. Those on the front line told us what was needed and we listened to them. Our plan was working, with the police telling us, and this is the police telling us, that there was a downward trend in offending. Now, in our plans and laws, we worked hard to strengthen the response to youth crime, particularly for repeat serious offenders. We introduced breach of bail conditions as an offence. We made it more difficult for serious repeat offenders to get bail by expanding the list of offences with the presumption against bail. We introduced harsher maximum penalties for unlawful use of a motor vehicle. Offences if the person is armed, uses violence, or where the offending is spread on social media. We extended the maximum term of a conditional release order from 3 to 6 months, allowing additional supervision and rehabilitative programs to be undertaken. We also introduced a fast-track sentencing program in Brisbane, Townsville, Southport and Cairns to ensure young people spent less time on remand and more time serving their sentences. We provided additional police funding to conduct extra high visibility police patrols in areas of concern, including public spaces and residential areas. We introduced youth co-responder teams made up of police and youth justice workers who patrol the streets together to improve community safety. And we also introduced new laws to ban the sale of knives and other items to minors, which further supported Jack's Law, the nation-leading legislation that authorises police wanting operations. When I last spoke in here on that, it was over 700 weapons had been taken off the streets, I do believe, and out of the shopping centres because of the wanting powers that we introduced. What we do know is what makes Queensland safer. What will make Queensland safer? Supporting the family programs, the intervention and diversion programs that are already there. I spoke of this previously. The best gold standard program that we have in my area is Skilling Queenslanders for Work. It's crucial that the funding be kept up for it there. If you can do, as in our area, through 80 programs, get training for 3,300 people and make sure that 2,200 people get work, that's 2,200 families that now have got a stability and an income in them. And I have seen that it changes the lives of not only the young people and the people going to that program, but all their family around them. One of the other things I do want to point out as well is that we have a very successful program, and I've talked about this before, the YAMBI program, run by Unity, a long-term community corporation. And that's the key, having a community, corporations or organisations that can take on that burden of running these programs. They've run this with youth justice for years, successful. It's intensive case management, intensive engagement from people who have already been in the youth justice system. Speaker, one of the things just in my last wee while there, I just want to talk about that. These programs are there. They are already gold standard. We do want to make sure that Queenslanders feel safe. But the LNP's approach in this bill is flawed and it's rushed. When the laws do not reduce victim numbers, the LNP, as we've heard earlier before from the member for Gladstone, have asked the public servants to find a different way of reporting to data. There is no investment in police, no extra court resources, no extra additional custodial capacity, and no real intention from the LNP to make the community safer with funding to support our frontline services.